Hi, sweet friends. I'm Amy Lay, the Invincibility Coach. This is a part of an ongoing series that I started when the Tour de France went underway a few weeks ago. And so it's called Lessons from the Peloton. So there's one more week left of racing. And what I want to focus on today as a way of looking at something that these cyclists do during the race that we can relate to our lives, because that's the whole reason I'm doing this, right? Lessons from the Peloton. What I want to look at is this. The safest place is at the front. Okay, so little sidebar here that I need to mention with all these videos. I am not a cyclist, right? I tried it and it's miserable. It is the hardest thing that I've ever tried, and I've done a lot of athletic pursuits in my life, and I still do. It's super difficult, but I'm really fascinated with watching races and the whole cycling culture, because I really do believe that it is the hardest sport on the planet. I know that's saying a lot, right? I know it is, but I believe it based on what I've seen and what I've known of cyclists and what I've researched. And anyway, that's not what this video is about. This video, to get the planet in a better mood, is this lesson that I feel like we can take from the Peloton, which is that the safest place is at the front. Now, that the reason that these riders that are safest at the front are safe is because the rest of the Peloton, right, is behind them. So without getting into the dynamics of like the breakaway and like all that kind of stuff, that's probably going to be reserved for a later video. I keep threatening. Is because here's the deal. You've got a ton of cyclists on the road, whatever that road might look like, right? Sometimes it's kind of wide. Sometimes it's insanely skinny. Sometimes it's a little rougher than others. There's like road furniture, obstacles and stuff in the way. And you are riding as a cyclist. You're riding shoulder to shoulder with all the other cyclists. So it's crazy, I'm telling you. And so crashes happen. We've talked about that in the past, and how cyclists will, after a crash, many times get right back up, battered and bloody, and get back on their bike if they can, or they do a bike change and then they go on, right? Well, when you sit at the front and your team helps you, maybe as the possible GC contender, which means like the would-be winner of the race, they're trying to protect you, so they want to stay at the front. That is the place to be. So because you don't have to worry about this contagion of decision makers, some good, some not so good, and the wrecks oftentimes happen back in the Peloton and in the tight groups, right? So how can we relate this concept of safety at the front to our lives? Well, if you are prone to just being a follower, and hey, no harm, no foul, right? There are some benefits now and then, I think, to being a follower. But for the most part, safety in life is at the front. That means deciding for yourself, what do I think about a certain thing? What do I think about a certain concept? What do I think about the state of affairs right now? And I want you to understand how much you sacrifice by waiting until all these other people decide, and then you're like, well, I'm just going to go with those people. It's a little bit lazy, right? But fine, I mean, again, because sometimes we can't be at the front in everything, right? Sometimes you have to be like, hey man, like take music, for instance. This is interesting to me. I love music, right? But there are 2 or 3 people in my life that I so trust with their taste in music, that for like new stuff coming out, I kind of am just like, just let me know what's going on out there, because I just don't have time and I don't go research that stuff as much as I do other things. So I'm a follower, but I follow the right people. So, but leading, when you're out in the front and you decide where you can get trustworthy information so that you can decide things for yourself, that's kind of like sitting out front in a Peloton, right? Because you can see what's coming. You don't have to be like, gosh, I hope so-and-so will let me know it's coming really soon, because I'm not really going to know what to do until that person or those people or that organization tells me what to think. Whereas you can observe. When you are out front, you are deciding for yourself. And this is the very beginnings of what I do as the Invincibility Coach, where I get people to trust themselves. You have to be able to assess an environment, even something as simple as walking into a store, right? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? What is the vibe right now? Like, got my mask on, we make decisions constantly all the time, but if you can see what's in front of you and you're not relying on all these other people in front of you to make decisions for you, then you can really begin to be like, what do I want to do? What do I feel is right now? If you find yourself in an environment where you're like, man, I can't really put my finger on it, but it just doesn't really feel like I should be here right now. You got to listen to that. Whereas if you wait until something happens that you think, shit, I should have gotten out of there earlier, or you wait for somebody else to make that decision, what ends up happening when we do that in our lives is that we learn not to be accountable. What? Well, so-and-so, or that thing I read, or that organization that I'm a part of, it's what they said to do, and I just did it. So we get in this habit of not being accountable and blaming our circumstances on external forces, be they a family member or another loved one, our partner, our sweetheart, or again, just like the prevailing wind. Well, if I'd have known, if you'd been riding at the front, you would have known. Okay, so there's this sight. It's about having sight that you can see forward, be at the front. It is scary sometimes, right? Because sometimes you might be one of the first decision makers in a certain environment or in a certain group, right? But I promise you, the more you do it, not only are you given an opportunity to pave the way for other people, which is super exciting. And by the way, that's what being a leader is. If you're in the market to be a leader, you have to put yourself in those, man, I'm going to be one of the first people to see this road coming at me. I'm going to know if there's an obstacle. I'm going to know if there's danger. And then I'm going to transmit that information back to all the people that are willing to be like, yeah, I'm just going to hang out back. I'm just going to kind of do what the word is that comes flickering back to me. Just going to do that. This whole be at the front thing is not for everyone. But I tell you what, cyclists are hardcore, and so most of them have spent time at the front. Like, they wouldn't be where they are if they were not willing and haven't spent tons of time at the front. So that's the message. The safest place to be is at the front. Practice it. You can do it with any area of your life. Any area of your life. That gets you to start literally leading. And in doing so, you're going to be challenged to ask yourself, what do I think about this? What do I feel about this? What's my instinct? And I promise you guys, no matter who's watching this, everybody has instinct. Everybody has that voice right inside of them. It's just that for a lot of people, it's teeny tiny. It's like a whisper. You forgot how to listen to it. You listened to it big time when you were a kid because you responded immediately when you were a kiddo. But then it just starts getting blanketed and blanketed and blanketed over the years. So start listening to it, because I promise you it's there. And the more you do, the more you'll find yourself riding out front. I love you guys to pieces. Peace out.